Good day, welcome Great Skeptic. How y'all doing?
Hello.
I'm here with the Godless Strayan.
Hello. How are you?
And I've been waiting to do that intro all week.
Hello.
So I'm here with the Godless Strayan, and I'm super duper excited, and I'm also 1 hour late. So I'm sorry to everyone in the chat. I am sorry to you, Meredith.
That's all right.
And thank you all for being patient and wonderful, wonderful people.
They are. They're amazing.
So we're not doing an atheist flashback tonight because I don't have to make that the only thing I do here. And we're just going to have a fun little philosophical or not talk.
Maybe we'll see. Yep, that sounds good.
Maybe, maybe not. There we go. I'm still going to drink because I don't know. I feel like it tonight.
Why not? Why not? It's a busy day.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a fizzy night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just an alcoholic Sprite. That's all that was. Okay, cool. So, is that a green screen veil behind you, Mac? No, it's just a gray curtain. So, don't worry, Mark Caesar. So, I guess the first thing I want to ask you, if I'm just asking questions, excuse me, is why did you start a channel, and what are you gonna do with it?
Okay. So you probably remember in March earlier this year, this guy came out and shot a whole heap of people in Christchurch. Do you remember that?
I do.
Unfortunately.
I do.
Yes. He was Aussie. I don't know his name. I've decided not to learn his name. He's just, twat bucket or something like that. I'm not sure what I've called him. But he's him, and then you've got a politician in Australia who's also a twat bucket. He said some pretty awful things about the victims of this mass shooting, and we've also got a whole heap of right-wing powerful people in Australia, and I was really concerned about Australia's voice, and we seem to be like we're going to be quite far right in international, what people look at Australia like. And so I thought to myself, it's important for Australia to have somebody who speaks for a lot of Australians. So I thought, I may as well start an atheist channel, because at the time I hadn't been able to find an atheist Australian channel. So I started it. Yeah.
Awesome. And there's a couple around there. I know there's Not Joe Witness. I think there's a couple more, but I don't know them right offhand. Australian.
You've got Agnostic Aussie, and there's a few more I think floating around, but they're not very big.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware. Not John knows them better than me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's cool though. So I have a question to something you had said. You said that there's a lot of right wingers in Australia, right? I don't know a lot about the Australian government really. I know just a little bit. Like if I had to guess, I would say it sounds like there's kind of a rising of right-wing ideologues right now, kind of like in the U.S., kind of like Trump and stuff. And also, you guys have your version of the NRA, which is One Nation.
No, One Nation isn't. Well, it's pro-gun.
Yeah.
But One Nation is more pro white Australia policy, very racist, awful people. You've got, Pauline Hanson makes me want to vomit every time I look at her. Every time I see her face, I look in her eyes, and all I can see is hatred. That's all I can see.
Gotcha.
Yeah, she's very, very unnice person.
What's her name again?
Pauline Hanson.
Yes.
Yes, she was the leader of the One Nation Party. Started off as, you know, all Asian, like very anti-Asian, and now obviously she's moved to anti-Muslim. Yeah, but some of the things that are coming out of the One Nation Party is just disgusting. You know, like, oh, I don't even want to repeat some of the things, but one of the senators actually said that the Aboriginal languages are not actually considered to be a language. And he said that to a PhD student who can fluently speak and has studied for years an Aboriginal language. But no, of course, the racist One Nation politician knows more about a Aboriginal language than a PhD student.
Yeah, usually do.
Usually.
Oh my goodness. So I want to ask you, because I see this a lot here in the States. Right-wing politicians and right-wing ideologues, they tend to be more religious. Is that about the same for you?
I would say that's a possibility. I mean,
kind of broad strokes, I know.
Yeah, I would say broad strokes, yes. There is a lot of influence by the religious in Australia. Before the election that we had on May the 18th this year, I actually put out a video on the two leaders that were the two major leaders. So we've got the Labor Party and the Liberal Party. The Liberal Party is confusingly the Conservative Party, and the Labor Party is the Liberal Party, which, yeah, because that makes sense. Anyway, so I did a bit of a breakdown of the religious beliefs of the leaders of the two parties, and the Liberal, i.e. the Conservative Party, got into Australia, and the Prime Minister now of Australia goes to a Pentecostal church. So, you know, the happy clappers, the slain in the spirit, those sorts of people.
Yeah.
That's a little bit concerning. He doesn't send his daughters to a mainstream school. He sends them to a Baptist church school, because he doesn't want them to be exposed to those other people, i.e. the LGBTQIA plus community and their crazy ideas of equality. He also fought against the LGBT community for getting equal marriage rights. So yes, I'm not very happy about him being a leader of my government, but you know, that's how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, it tends to be. I know how you feel.
I mean, you got Trump. Who am I supposed to be complaining about?
No, you're fine. You definitely have the right to complain. But no, I can definitely sympathize though. Yeah, it's so odd, and we have if anyone's been paying attention to what's been going on in the community, we have the NIFB. I'm sure you've heard about that, yeah.
Yeah.
And they recently had a Make America Straight Again conference down in Orlando. Paul, have a wonderful night. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Stuff. Excuse me. And I've seen a bit of what's going on there. I haven't had a chance myself to dive in, but I have seen that even there's more people coming out of the woodwork who are affiliated with the NIFB and who are not, who are cops.
Yeah, I saw that. That's concerning.
And we get more and more people who represent us with these draconian beliefs, with these awful, hateful. And I put in a little political group that I'm in on Facebook. It's mostly local. I asked everyone what they think of. It was Dark Matter 2525's like latest video of what if God's the villain, just so like as a thought-provoking kind of thing. And it's a current events and political group. But excuse me. Also, thank you, Shannon, for coming in.
Hello.
And Christy, I'm so glad
Hello.
I didn't give you a link. But, so while I'm off track, real quick, I'll say thank you, live chat, for coming. Thank you, Lida Hall, and try someone I didn't read. I missed the name. I'm sorry.
Triadium?
Triestial. I'm sorry. I'm
Try. Try. I know you.
Try person. And the conspiracy. I see some new people in my live chat, and I appreciate you here. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming as well, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. So while I have you all in here, please don't forget to subscribe to Meredith here at her channel. I will have it linked down below. I don't yet because again I was super duper late, but I will have it linked below as soon as we're done. And don't forget to subscribe here and like the video because that's cool too. You should do that. Excuse me. But anyways, what I was trying to say and focus on before I distracted myself is I posted this thing in this political group, and some people got mad because it's about their dear old God. And a few people pointed out, one specifically pointed out, I'm not going to comment here because I don't think this has any place in this group. And I'm like, well, I'm glad you commented enough to say that because I disagree. I think that religion obviously plays a big part in our current events and how we make our policies. So yeah. I think it does have a place here. Like we should be allowed to talk about it. My mom also commented a long thing, but I felt like it was kind of productive, at least the way that I like responded to her. It wasn't like antagonistic. Excuse me for all the coughs. But that one dude left the group, and the administrator deleted the whole thread because he was just worried that it was just gonna blow the fuck up. Because people are so afraid to talk about it. Fun thing is, he made me the administrator after that. He's just like, look, if you want to do this, I don't know if I can handle this group anymore. Want to have it? I'm like, I don't know. I guess.
Maybe. Kind of.
Yeah, the administrator after that, and I'm just like, all right, there you go. Guess we can talk about this now. I'm not gonna, but I haven't pushed anyone because I don't want them all to leave. I'm one of 2 or 3 people out of probably 100 in that group who have any left-leaning ideology at all. So I don't want to send them all away because I want to add to what they hear.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm so sorry I went on the tangent. But so are you seeing anything like the NIFB over in your country right now, or
yes, actually, Agnostic Aussie, he told me that there's 2 branches of the NFIB in Australia. There's one north of Bribie Island. I can't remember where exactly. There's one in Queensland and one in New South Wales. I haven't had a chance to look into it too much because he only told me about that today. And yeah, so apparently you've got the NFIB has popped its ugly head in Australia. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Aaron is in here, and or not Aaron. Aaron's chair is in the live chat, and she said that there's 3 now, and she said that there's one or one in New Zealand. So.
Oh wow, yeah. If you could tweet the information to me at NA_Meredith. If not Jazz in the chat, I can't see the chat. If he's in there, not Jazz, could you link my Twitter, please? Thank you.
I'll link some things real quick while we're talking. I think I can do two things at once.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, but apparently the NFIB has popped its ugly head up in Australia, and that's not good. But luckily, Australia doesn't actually have that the gun laws that America has. So I don't think they're as dangerous as they would be in America. Because I was very, very concerned about the protesters that went to protest the NASA the other, like during the weekend. I was very expecting to see people getting shot and death happening over there, because it's just pretty scary. But like, yeah, no one got hurt though, did they?
That's good. As far as I know, no.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No. I know that Thomas went down there to Orlando for the protest.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah. So my assumption would be that they haven't been hurt. So I was really concerned. Very, very concerned.
Yeah, because I've seen, what was it? John from Godless Engineer went to a protest, kind of like to anti-protest by an abortion clinic by where he lives, because he saw it online. He's like, hey, I know where that place is at. So he hopped in his car and he went out and argued with them, and like he accidentally like bumped a guy when he like turned, and that guy was like, he acted like, all right, if you do this again, big boy, you're going down. He's like don't touch me. Don't touch me. Like they're looking for a reason to like.
Oh wow, because shooting someone is so pro-life.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And it's so silly. Like they don't rise to like whatever level of threat that they're getting. They just go to an extreme immediately. And that happens during protests a lot over here. And not just over here, but around the world. Like if there's security or whatever, like if someone throws a rock, I guess it's time to open fire. That makes a lot of sense. And people, the civilians act the same way. If you touch or push me, I got to get my gun out, self-defense, and it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm a fairly calm, moderate person, and it's just, to me, attacking people for touching you, it's have we evolved in the past 100,000 years or anything? Like, it's just a 0 to 100 thing, and it's like, guys, breathe, calm, it's all good.
Yeah. I had a friend ask me one time, like if we were like to get into a tiff, because he noticed I'm a fairly calm person. He's like, so what would you do if I punch you in the face? Well, what kind of question is that too? And it's like, I don't know. I'd probably just give you the first one. Be like, hey, what are you doing? Like, seriously? Like, please don't do it again. I mean, I guess the second time I'd have to do something, but
yeah.
Also depend on how big was the person who punched me the first time. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I'd probably be running away, going.
Don't do it again. But yeah, you don't have to go to the extreme. That's the point.
No.
But anyways, so I'm trying to link your channel.
Okay.
Still trying to.
Well, you brought up about abortion, and yeah, so while you're doing that, I'll talk a bit about my thoughts on the whole abortion thing. Is pro-choice. I'm very pro-choice, and the reason being is that I cannot think of another point in medical history where your bodily autonomy is overridden by someone else. So we've all heard you can't force someone to give a kidney analogy, and it's very, very true. And a lot of people argue, oh, it's, you know, you can't withdraw your kidney. Like once it's implanted into the other person, you can't demand it back. But the thing is, your kidney is now in them and they're independent of you. However, at no point is a child within your womb considered independent until this child is gone, and therefore your bodily autonomy is paramount, even though yes, you are technically killing someone, but you know, you have every right to say, I don't want this to happen to my body. And I have some very real reasons as to why I don't want to have a child. I won't go into them because no one wants to hear about my medical history. But I have some very real reasons why I do not want a child, and they're medical, not emotional. So, and the idea of being forced to carry a child and go through what I will have to go through if I have a child it's abhorrent to me. It's absolutely abhorrent.
Yeah, it's not reasonable for everyone.
No. I mean, if you yourself were forced to be hooked up to somebody for 9 months, sharing your blood with them, would you be happy about that?
Probably not.
No.
I can think of very few cases of where that would be great.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me.
But, yeah, the abortional laws coming out of the US actually concerns me quite a bit, because as we were talking about, there is a rise of the conservative viewpoints in America, and basically Australia often follows a lot of the things that America wants to do, and you know, there are murmurings of maybe restricting abortion laws in Australia. But I don't think that's going to happen, because I don't think the right has that strong a grasp on Australian politics. I think we've got a lot more centre version of politics in America, thankfully.
I hope so for you.
I hope so too.
Because what we have right now, and if you could compare it to what you have, that would be wonderful. But I mean, because we have the three branches of government, we have the judicial, the executive, and the Congress.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember what it's called. All of a sudden, it left me. I thought of that one first, let it go. But then we have Congress. We have the House of Representatives and the Senate and stuff. And right now, the judicial branch, they're pretty much packed, or there's a majority of Republican judges, and that sucks, because they can let this go into law, and we don't have a way to really stop it. I think if Congress and the executive branch both agree, they can overturn. I think there's a 2/3 there. Well, is right. As well, because 2/3 of our government and Congress can overrule itself, but whatever. I don't know enough about government, but government is difficult. It's never easy.
Yeah,
but
it is a bit of a quagmire, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So I guess my point is, it's not looking super great for us. But what's it look like for you? Like, how is the government set up looking for you in this situation?
Okay, we've got two houses. We've got different levels of government. We've got the local, the state, then the national government. Basically, we've got, like, it gets pretty complicated, but on the national level, we've got the House of Representatives and the Senate. And I think it's similar to the US. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but basically the House of Reps pass a law, and then it goes up to the Senate to be signed in, basically. I think that's how it goes. It's been a while since I've looked into it, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. I'm sure if later on the chat she'll correct me, but yeah. So that tends to how it goes.
Do you think you have enough people representing you, or your views to keep things sensible over there?
No. So the Liberals actually made it in with a majority over the past. Oh God, it's been so long. Kevin 07. Okay, so since 2007, Australia's basically not had a government worth talking about. We've had, I think for a while there, we were getting a new prime minister every year and a half or something like that. Yeah, it was something crazy like that. We were getting a new prime minister. And yeah, so I'm very confused as to what's happened with our government, but this is the first time I think since 2007 we've had a majority government, and that's the Liberals. The Liberals got that. So yeah.
So, what is your political line right now?
My political leaning, I would say, well, I'm definitely on the left. Fiscally, I would like to see wealth inequality reduced, because I am an older millennial, so I have, in my entire working life, have not seen my wage go up in regards to inflation. So, like all millennials, and I'm just seeing more and more and more and more wealth inequality happening, and it's concerning for me, because if we don't start tackling it now, things like automation is going to cause issues, and obviously global warming. I'm very concerned about other things. I brought this up on the Leah podcast on Saturday. I talked about the Adani coal mine. That was screaming out, corruption, basically. Pardon? What was that?
Glad that you pointed that out.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know what the Adani coal mine is, it's a major, huge coal mine that basically every single ecologist, every single climate scientist, every single person who is a scientist has gone, don't do this, terrible idea, don't do it. And even economists are saying, if you do this, you're going to lose money because of the move towards renewables. And yet it was put through. And I'm not sure, but it's within a couple of weeks they'll start building on this mine site, where habitat of endangered species is there, and then you've got the water table, and they're going to be taking water out of the water table, which means there's less water for the farmers, and if there's less water for the farmers, you can't eat food, and it's just. And they're going, oh, but we're gonna give 100 people jobs, and it's like, well, it's either that or the Great Barrier Reef, and what about the 1,500 people who rely on the Great Barrier Reef for jobs?
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's really a shitstorm.
Yeah.
It's the kind of trickle down that works. It's the trickle down that just fucks everyone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it just screams out, and I can see where the people over there are coming from. It's sort of like, we have no jobs, we have nothing to do out here. We're poor, and we need this boost to our economy, and I can see where they're coming from. But the investment into renewable energy would be much better, because you can always give the people, you can train people up, and unfortunately. And I hate to be awful and say this and make it sound like I'm a callous bitch, but sorry, I swear occasionally. But
Fuck it.
Fuck it. I don't want to sound like a callous bitch, but unfortunately, that's how the world works. I mean, there's people are losing jobs left, right, and center because of automation, for example. Like, you know, what will happen to the bus drivers when automated buses are commonplace, or taxis, or those sorts of things. Like, you can't say, what about this, if it's an obsolete technology. You know, we don't complain about you know, people who make you know, shoes for horses. I mean, what about their jobs?
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. And to me, because I'm friends with Christy, I say that's the problem with capitalism, right? A capitalist world really only works perfectly in a world where there's unlimited resources,
Yeah.
right? And also in a world where global warming wouldn't really have an effect. It wouldn't be an issue then, right? Because then you could just pretty much fuck up anything without fucking it up, and you use all the resources you want, and there's always some there for someone else to start something new. A monopoly wouldn't really matter, but it does. Like, you get monopolies, and if you want to start up a new business, maybe you're messing with someone's patent or something else that they own, and then they can sue you, and then you can never get back up off the ground again. It's really sad and sick, kind of how we've built up this system to make people successful, but then those successful people can make sure no one else is really successful. And they can really screw with the general population with things by destroying our environment in a multitude of ways. Like factory farming really doesn't do good for the local environment and the habitats that the animals live around the industrialized farming areas, and then just global warming in general, climate change.
Yeah.
There's a lot. There's a lot to it that like fucks up a lot. As far as the automation goes, because you mentioned that a couple times, and I don't have all the answers. I just have some answers that might work, and others might work better, or maybe mine might not work. But my 2 cents on automation is Richard Wolff is an economics professor, and he's a Marxist. He advocates for socialism and democracy in the workplace. So if we had that, how he defined it, I'll explain very, very shortly, is, let's say you get this automation, but in this workplace, so like this busing company, we'll say, all the bus drivers own a certain part, like a bigger portion of the business. So you don't really have a CEO. You don't have the big guy at the top raking in almost all of the money. They're pretty much dividing it evenly, and they decide what happens with the business evenly. So when they automate, they all get that cut. So really, they're all making the same amount of money and the bigger profits that they make each year, except they can take time off, or they don't need to be there because they all own that stock in the company. So more people make that living off of that. And I'm not necessarily specifically advocating for that, or that being the only way to run a business, because it's not. Other ways work. I just think other ways, like the ways that we're doing things right now in the majority of the world, has a sooner expiration date.
I agree. What was it recently? It was something like 50 people have 50% of the world's world's money, or something like that.
I think it's 26 people have half of the world's wealth. I think I heard that last night, actually.
Cool.
Last night or so.
Yeah, that's pretty
crazy.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's not like any given country. That's like that's the world population. Just to reiterate for everyone watching, the world population. There's 26 people who own half of the world's wealth.
Or was it not half of the world's worth. It's the wealth of the bottom wealthiest half.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that. I don't think it's half the world's worth. I think it's the cumulative total of the wealth of the poorest 50% of the population.
I think you're right. Thanks for the correction.
Yeah.
I think that's right. Cool. Okay. Well, I'd like to get on to more theistic, atheistic views, if you don't mind, if you can go for a while longer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Cool.
Are you tired?
Say what?
Are you tired? What's going over there?
Not right now. I hope I am after this. If not, I'll go play a little bit of Fortnite and then go to sleep.
Fair enough.
I'm one of those lame people. Well, first, thank you for talking politics with me, because
Okay.
it scratches an itch, and I like it. It's fun.
Scratch your itch. A.
You're too fun.
Oh yeah, I'm hilarious. You know that.
You are. If you haven't seen, if I can talk and not cough, if you guys haven't seen one of her war videos, I can't remember which one it is exactly. I'm gonna look it up. How to pick a good scientific journal with Meredith.
That's terrible. That video.
That video, like, at first I'm like, all right, she's interesting. Maybe she's crazy.
Or both. Yeah.
Mostly don't care. This is hilarious. I'm really glad you picked this topic. Man, you did this very well. It's just, it was fantastic. It was very, very entertaining, and you are just a gem.
Oh, thank you.
So, if you guys haven't seen that, it's very, very, very informative, and she does it in a very not boring way. Go check out her on that video.
Thank you. I'm just going to plug my favorite solo video. I suppose you could call that one a solo video, but my favorite one is God is a Woman, and my arguments as to why I think God is a woman.
I remember seeing that. I don't know if I watched it or not, but I remember seeing it. I watched 2 or 3 of your videos. I can't remember which 2 or 3 they were, so I had to look at the title here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was God is a Woman. I feel like it was.
Okay, so the one that you were talking about with the scientist and the atheist crossover one, that one, I can't remember what I called it, but it's basically the thumbnail says the crossover you have not asked for. The crossover you have not been waiting for. Yes. So a lot of people have actually said that they really enjoyed it, and I'm just like, what is wrong with you people?
Much is wrong with us. We want another. Very fun.
I can't see the chat. What are they saying?
Jen says, "Damn, her skin is effing perfect. I hate her." And then notch a link to the crossover video.
All right.
So I think that's really all you need to know right there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Johnny Drive By, thank you for coming in.
Hello. How are you, man?
Too funny. Her skin is effing perfect. And no, she wasn't talking about my skin. All right. So, you said you used to be religious. You used to be Catholic, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a funny thing that I went through. So,
Catholics go through a lot of funny things.
Oh yeah, well, that's true. Luckily, I did not know of anyone who experienced the Catholic priest experience. So yes, nothing like that, as far as I'm aware, happened in my school, which is good. But yeah, I started off never. Okay, long story short, I grew up with a reasonably religious mother, like a spiritual mother. My dad really wasn't too much on the scene when I was growing up, but he was a stout atheist. and like a spiritual mother. And when I was growing up, I had that sort of the influence of the atheist dad and the spiritual mum. When I was growing up in public schools, and as an adult, this makes me very angry, but in public schools, we had scripture. So every week we had to learn about God and Jesus and all that bullshit. And so I was quite getting that indoctrination from a public school because, that's just not okay. And then, so I was getting that, but I always remember thinking to myself as a very, very young kid that I remember being really embarrassed about it. I remember thinking this is embarrassing, even as quite young. So as I grew up, I remember Mum took us to a church. I talked to her about this not that long ago, and apparently it was a Baptist church. So I became quite religious at a time, and I remember I was probably about 7, 8, maybe years old, and I demanded from my dad, who made the universe, and inserted God of the gaps. And if that was me, I probably would have murdered someone if my 8-year-old daughter came and demanded the God of the gaps. And so I probably should apologize to my dad about that. Anyway, but so I kind of flip-flopped between the two. Then I moved up to Lismore, where I grew up, and I didn't really want to say that word, but now it's out there. So I grew up. So when I was about 11, I went to public school again, and they were teaching scripture again. And that was when I first started talking. I first met a person who I'm pretty sure was either Assembly of God or those people who speak in tongues.
Oh, Pentecostal.
Yeah, anyway, she was my age, and she would occasionally speak in tongues, and she was very, very religious, and I thought that was weird. But as you do. But when the thing is, we were still going into scripture, but it was an opt out, not an opt in. So that meant that if you didn't want your child, or if your child didn't want to be in scripture, they had to bring in a note saying, I don't want to be here. Does that make sense? Rather than I want my child to be, yeah. So that was the default. And also because the default meant that there were more kids in scripture, the kids that didn't go into scripture ended up being kicked out of the classroom. The atheists or the non-Christian kids were othered, which I thought was a fairly interesting psychological thing that probably was happening at the time.
Yeah.
So
where did you fall in there? Did you opt in or out? Or did you opt out?
I defaulted in. So I was kind of one of those kids that just forgot to bring home things like notes and things like that. So and I kind of wanted to be out, but I also kept forgetting to ask to be taken out of scripture. So that falls on me. That falls on me.
Did you want to get out of it at that point?
I did. But I just never got around to asking because, as I said, I was that kid. Anyway, I ended up. I kept flip-flopping between the two, being either atheist or questioning, or very Christian. When I was about 14 years of age, 13 years of age is when in where I grew up is when high school starts. And when I was 14 years of age, my primary school friend who went to a different primary school to me, went to a different high school to me, she moved to a Christian college, and she invited me to go to her youth group. So I decided to go with her so I could hang out. And I remember listening to this story once, where it was basically that the devil always wants to try and tempt you and be your like take you away from God, and so therefore you have to keep your guard up at all times, because even if you drop it a little bit, you know, you're going to get done by Satan. And I remember thinking to myself that this was a bit much. Like, how can you expect someone to be on guard 100% of your time? And if God really was that loving, why wouldn't he protect us and make sure, like, because we're human, we fail, you know, you can fall asleep, and just before you fall asleep, you know, Satan can come in and corrupt your heart, kind of thing. I mean, wouldn't God, if he loved you so much, protect you from that? Why does the onus have to be on you? And that was one of the more profound stories, as to starting to make me think out, you know, about it. But of course, I was taught those thought stopping techniques to say, oh, sorry, God, for doubting you. Then I went to, anyway, so I had a massive falling out with this friend of mine, and she used that typical I'm Christian, therefore I can do no wrong attitude to excuse what she did. And something I've learned from her and that chick in primary school that would speak in tongues is that the more someone screams about how religious and how good they are because they're Christian, the less likely they are to be a trustworthy person. That's something I've noticed, although I've met some really, really lovely born again Christians who I would not say the same thing about it, but I've just noticed there is that correlation of the more somebody screams and yells about how they're religious and they should be trustworthy, they shouldn't be trusted.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if anybody else has had that experience, but that's definitely something that I've experienced. Anyway, so when I was about 15 or 16, I wanted to become a confirmed in the Catholic Church, because I'd been going to this Catholic school for 3 years by that time, and so I was like, I'm super religious, I want to be good with God, blah blah blah. So I thought I should do some research, and I started reading the Bible every single day, and I started feeling a bit sad. And so I was praying to God and said, God, please, can you help me out? I really need you to help me, get out of this funk. And then after a while, I stopped reading the Bible because I was getting tired. I had schoolwork to do, those sorts of things. So I stopped reading the Bible and I started feeling good. And then I realized after a couple of months, I was like, oh, I feel like I haven't talked to God. And, oh, I'm so sorry, God, please forgive me. And I'll start reading the Bible again. And then after after a while, I started becoming more and more depressed. And I was praying to God, please, Lord, get me out of this funk. I'm really depressed. And then I stopped reading the Bible because schoolwork caught up. I was getting tired, blah, blah, blah. Not that long later, I was like, oh, I haven't prayed to God for a while. I'll start praying and reading the Bible, and I'd start getting depressed. And then I was like, what? And it was about the third time of that cycle of me reading the Bible was when I was like, hang on, there's a connection here. So I read the Bible, but I took a step back and I realized that the God of the Bible is a textbook abuser, absolute textbook abuser. And I was like, well, no wonder I'm depressed.
Yeah.
And that was basically what got me to go, no. I still had faith, and I actually maintained my faith that something more is out there for quite a long time, because the region where I grew up was a very hippie. People believed in all the hippie things like naturopathy and homeopathy and natural healing and those sorts of things, and there were so many people and a lot of influence in that area that was quite spiritual. So of course I kind of experimented around the place, and I became Wicca, and then I did a little bit of Buddhism. But as soon as I realized that that victim blaming and abusive kind of attitudes that a lot of religions have, I kind of just went, no, I'm not interested in you in that anymore. So I kind of, yeah, I became quite spiritual. And then after a while, I just kind of gave up, and I was like, I just I don't careism, you know. That was basically it. I used to wear AFET, which was the Egyptian queen of the god, who also unfortunately shares the same name as a certain terrorist group. So I won't say that name because the IS.
IS.
Yeah. So AFET is possibly what they used to pronounce, how they used to pronounce her name. So I was sort of interested in her as well, but just by the time I left that area, I just had given up caring. I used to work for a lady who was very, very religious, and she kept telling me to take my, well, she didn't tell me to, but she did not like the fact that I had AFET and the pentagram on a chain around my neck when I was working for her. What was that? Sorry?
I said sometimes they don't like that.
No, generally not. No. But she was a lovely lady. She was a very lovely lady. So I hold nothing against this lady. But by the time I moved up to where I live now, and I started going to uni, was when I was starting to realize that for me, I can't continue believing in a god. I'm not. I would say I'm agnostic in the strictest sense of the word, because I can't claim for a fact that there is no God, because the universe is infinite. So there could be a tiny chance that this happens, but beyond a black swan event, I can't say that there is a God from what I've been learning in uni. So for those of you who don't know, I'm doing general science and I'm majoring in chemistry and microbiology. So yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned your scientific video.
Sorry, my
Yeah, you mentioned that in your scientific journal video.
yeah.
That you're majoring in, which is very, very cool, I think.
It's a cool subject. I mean, I could talk about chemistry and microbes for ages. I'm currently researching and writing a script on H. pylori, and I'm terrified of the length it's going to turn into. It's a fascinating bug.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah. Thank you. So that's basically it. There's more details. I have actually filmed that story in more detail on my channel called My Story, for originality's sake. So
Awesome. I'll have to check that out, because I haven't heard most of that.
okay.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I had kind of different reasons myself of getting out of it, and I don't need to go into all of it here. But I also noticed after a little bit of either not talking to God or extra talking to God, that when you focus harder on him, sometimes shit just don't happen. Like sometimes it gets worse, or you get more worn down from it, right? And then when you leave it alone for a while, well, the devil must be coming around and trying to recruit you, because things are getting all right. So it's strange. Some people say, well, he's the hero of the story anyways. But either way, I don't believe in either of them.
No. It's just, I find the Abrahamic God very, very, very immoral. I don't think I could worship a God as immoral as that. Even if it did exist, I wouldn't, like, it is textbook abuse.
It is. Speaking of that, can you tell me like your top 2 or 3 things of your issues with like immoral things God does in the Bible?
Well, I could point to Job, the story of Job.
You could point to Job. You
In
could.
fact, I will. I will point
In fact, you should.
I do. So I'm not sure if anyone really, I would say the majority of people watching this would know the story of Job, but for those of you who don't, basically God said, I bet you this guy will not lose faith in me or curse me or whatever, and basically just ruins this guy's life. And then, but the thing that really gets me, that kind of annoys me, the whole thing, is that God kills his wife and children. And God says, I will give you everything back. But he doesn't exactly give back his wife and children, does he? His wife and his children are gone. They're dead.
Yeah, they're gone. They're done.
So
this gives them a replacement because they're property.
Yeah. And as a woman and a person who has morals, I find that a little bit abhorrent. You know, just call me crazy. Like, I don't know. But
You're such a snowflake.
yeah, I really am.
You're reading into it too much.
I know. How dare I?
Oh my goodness. No, that's such a good thing to point to, though. I mean, just Job, you can pick like 2, 3 to 30 things, but go on. I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, yeah. Well, that's one of them. Another one, of course, is the gaslighting that God does towards people. You know, just how God causes a person's heart to harden to defy God. I can't remember that story, but I think it's got something to do with Moses, where one of the Pharaoh's heart was hardened by God to give God the excuse to annihilate thousands of people. The just I don't know. It's so intense, and occasionally in that video that you mentioned a couple of times, that crossover video, I mentioned that I went to church with one of my clients. I work with people with disabilities, and one of the things that they said in church once was, it's a song, and they say, I do not deserve to have the crumbs from your table, but you give them to me. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of not, you just, that's a bit sick. Not a healthy relationship you've got there with God, to say that I'm not worthy for the crumbs of your table, but thank you so much for giving them. No, that's not okay. Yeah. And yeah, the fact that God is like, you're not as good as me, you never will be me, but you should try to be like me, but because you're not me, you never will be, and therefore you will not be perfect because I'm perfect. Like that's just abuse.
It is. It is the example. It is the definition of theocracy.
Yeah.
It's the supreme dictatorship. It's just like the supreme being leader is perfect, and you should want to be like them, and they know best for you, and all that.
Meanwhile, they're murdering you and raping you and abusing, like physically abusing you.
Yes,
but
but it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine because they love you.
Yeah, because they love you. Oh, yes. I pointed this out to my mom when just after I graduated high school. It was around there. I said that God is a dictator. And I was still very much Christian when I said that. But it's true. Like, I had no issue saying that. I'm just like, if God's your dictator and we all play our part, that's paradise. Because I understood God was a dictator.
Mm.
I don't understand how so much of the world is just like dictatorships are awful and they never ever work. Except that's the one thing you promote more than anything in your life. It's just, but it's the same. It's the same justification to get for every other thing, every other argument that they use is God is the exception.
Yeah.
Right? Everything must have a beginning. God is the exception. Um, anything about morality, God's the exception.
Yeah.
So
Um,
it's interesting, and I had to throw that 2 cents in there.
yeah. Well, I just completely off random topic, and then we can come back. But
Please.
I went and saw an Australian comedian, Frank Woodley, live. And if you haven't seen any of his work, it's hilarious. I suggest it.
Frank Woodley?
Anyway, Frank Woodley. Yeah.
Wow.
And he told a story where his son comes up and says, "You're such a dick potato." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "You're a dick potato." And he's like, "I don't know what that means." And he's like, "Well, you know how like you potatoes are also known as taters?" And he's like, "Yeah. Well, it's like that. Just you're a dick but with more potatoes. Dictator." Every time I hear that word dictator, I just think of that joke. You know, it's like a dick but with more potatoes.
That's pretty awesome.
It is. It's great. It's great.
We need to get a hold of Prophet of Zod for his next animation, so we can just draw God as a dick potato.
Yeah. Yes, we do.
I need everyone to @Prophet of Zod and hashtag
dick potato.
That's awesome.
So you know how McMurtry is attracted to pumpkins?
Mm-hmm.
Would Anderson, because he's a bit of a dick potato himself?
Yes.
He could be. He could be sexually attracted to potatoes.
He could be. You know, I don't know. I don't see any reason why he could not be.
Yeah.
I mean, he's already a maybe secret homosexual.
Maybe.
Maybe.
But he could also be sexually attracted to potatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We might have a whole roast by the end of it.
Oh my goodness, we might.
Yeah. Mm.
We might.
All right. So what we were talking about? We were talking about God being a dick potato.
Yes. Dick potato. Theocratic dictators.
Oh gosh, I'm really looking forward to Twitter after this.
I wish I did like my own thumbnails because I know what I do for this one.
Oh. Well, you can. I'm sure you can sort of like Google potatoes that look like penises. I'm sure there's several out there.
Yeah. That's Beige Price put in the live chat. Ham is attracted to bananas. Oven is attracted to broccoli. These Christians have a lot of funny fetishes.
They do.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
They do. So let me ask you, because we've been going for about an hour here, and I will let you go soon, because I like to try to keep it around an hour. Easier for people to watch that way. I'm going to ask you a little bit more about your like philosophical worldview, whatever, because as far as I'm concerned, thank you, Blue Collar Heathen, tweet sent to Prophet of Zod.
Cheers, man.
Because most people don't count atheism as a worldview. If they do, I feel like it's kind of empty. You probably would have a hard time justifying it. I say my worldview is humanism. I say my philosophical worldview is, I think it'd just be nihilism. Nihilism and rural utilitarianism. So what labels are you comfortable with putting on your mentality?
Don't be a dick.
Be a dick. I like that one.
Don't be a dickism, which probably translates pretty closely to humanism.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just like
number one rule.
Yeah, that's basically it. Because like I don't see the point at looking at someone and seeing their skin or their religion or whatever. If you're a dick to me, you can fuck off. Like that's it. I try not to be a horrible person. I know I can make mistakes because I'm human and I have been accidentally or deliberately a dick to people. But as a general rule, I try not to be. I try to sort of not get into the horrible things that some people do to each other. But in regards to some people, go for it. Sometimes they deserve it. Sometimes they deserve to be treated like crap because they treat other people like crap. So
yeah. Okay. So then that opens more doors for this conversation. Because one thing that's argued a lot, especially on the right here in the United States, is free speech, because that's a right for us, right? So how far does free speech go for you? Like, what's your, like, do you have a cutoff? I know don't be a dick, but where do we go from there?
Look, this is a very interesting question, because right now one of my most controversial videos is being talked about a lot on it's the Israel Folau, and a lot of people are supporting him. So basically, long story short, Israel Folau, big rugby player in Australia, put on Instagram anti-homosexual slurs, saying if you don't repent and go back to Jesus, you deserve to burn in hell. And he put the GRSM community in there, as well as of other people like atheists and non-Christians, basically. And
bring on the heat.
Pardon?
I said, bring on the heat.
Yeah. Anyway, he got fired by Rugby Australia because they told him, do not say this stuff. We do not want you saying this stuff because it reflects badly on what we want to be showing. And there's quite a few people commenting on this video, saying his free speech is being impinged. And my argument is, well, actually no, his code of conduct was in breach in his contract, and we're not stopping you from saying what you're going to do, but you're going to have to accept the consequences of your free speech. NIFB deserves to be shut down. They're advocating the death of people, full stop. That's way too far. I probably a little bit also against abuse, advocating the abuse of people as well. I think I'm probably a little less free speech than some people, but in regards to advocating the harm of other people, especially for things that they don't have any control over, I think should be called out and shut down. Because I know, call me a dictator or dick potato, but you can say whatever you want. And I've got this person quoting the Bible on my channel, and I have allowed them to keep that up because that is part of their free speech. But when it comes to the fact that somebody might end up using their words to advocate harm towards somebody else, that's kind of when they cross the line for me.
Yeah. My favorite way to say it is it's just not covered in free speech. Like it comes at a cost, right? Because any right you have, I think if you use any of those rights to impeach on the rights of someone else, you forfeited your right.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I look at it. So to this free speech thing, kind of steel manning what you're saying, if I am, and then adding my own thing is, yes, you have free speech. You can say pretty much anything you want, but it's like saying is one thing. Advocating for an action or violence or death, that's another thing. That's not just talking. That's talking for action, like talking for violence, right? So it's not really covered in a free speech. For me, I say you can say pretty much anything you want. You can say the N-word, you can say the most hateful, stupid ass things you want to say because you have free speech. And then I can use mine to say you're a dick.
Yeah, I agree.
You should probably shut your goddamn mouth. But if you dox someone or call for violence, you're done. Like you lost your right to free speech. I'm not necessarily sure on what the punishment should be, because I feel like we haven't really determined very well what it should be. But at the very least, you should lose your platform. At the very least, you should be ostracized. When you're calling for the death of someone or advocating for it, it's just not covered in free speech. So, what do you think about my words?
I would agree with you. Doxing, at the very least, if you're platformed and you've doxed someone, you should have at least that video or that whatever taken down, because that's in the interest of safety.
Yeah.
You just, one of the things that people have a huge problem with, and it is, they scream free speech, but they don't accept the consequences of that free speech. In the case of Israel Folau, he has free speech, but he doesn't want to accept the fact that he is getting the results of the consequence of that free speech. And we can't allow that. Well, we should have the responsibility and understand the responsibility that comes with that right. If that makes sense.
Yeah. It does to me.
Yeah.
It's really sad the way that they just abuse it. Because when they, excuse me, when people like that abuse any of our rights, it really raises the chances of them slimming down our rights.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a delicate balancing act, isn't it?
It is. It really is. So, I mean, I try to be as giving as I can with people's rights. Because that's if it's a right, then it should be a right. Like it should be very giving. But we have to draw a line somewhere. It's about everything. I'm a great skeptic. I think everything in moderation. I think there's a lot of gray area.
Oh, there's no such thing as a black and white. Absolutely none.
Right. And if there is, it is at the end of the spectrum.
Yeah. Almost nothing is dichotomous.
Right.
Almost, yeah, except for maybe binary code. Like there's not a lot of things in the world that's dichotomous.
Very true. Good point. Good point. But yeah, so that's my views on it. And I think free speech is a really, really good one to talk about. I think it's easier. I talked to someone over the weekend, an old friend of mine. She's a little she's a little younger than I am, and she's still very religious as far as I know. And I asked her thoughts on a free speech, and she's just like, well, I think you should be nice to people. And that's where she started. So we had a lot of back and forth there. It was like, so if someone's a jerk, do you think, because if they're breaking their free speech right, like if they're going past this threshold that you're setting, should they be punished? Or should we do something about it if they're going past what they have the right to do? And she's like, oh, no, I don't think so. So I had to try to explain this whole thing and try to get her to kind of, excuse me, widen her range. What she might think was okay, because she was really dead set at first on just, you should be nice to people. Like, oh no,
that's a reasonable thing to ask, I think.
Yes, it is. But at the same time, it depends on how you define nice to someone, I think. That was my issue, is like, how do you define nice? Because if you talk to almost any Christian on Twitter, we're harassing them. So we're not being nice.
I respectfully disagree with what you are saying.
Fair enough.
You're harassing me. It's like, no, I said the word respectfully disagreeing. Like,
yeah.
I wish to disagree with you, and I will calmly lay out all the reasons why I disagree with you. And then they just scream about how you're oppressing them. It's like, but where is it that I was said that I was being rude?
Yeah.
Wow.
A really good example. I'm not sure if you've come across Red Pill Religion yet.
I have not, but I don't want to now that you've mentioned it.
Don't waste your time.
I'm not going there.
Online, they're a pretty difficult group, we'll say. And Shannon Q's gone on there a lot, and so have a few other people. And I made one rebuttal video to the lead person in that group. My main point is, the lead guy over there, Max, he's one of those people who act like we are harassing them. Even saying, have you ever thought about other religions, how they think they're right? Just kind of stopping there, more or less, just trying to make them think about other religions. That's harassment. That's mental terrorism.
Yes. Yes, I see their point of view.
Yeah. So that, and also the fact that just kind of going against them, they think it's just nice, or that's trying to shut them the fuck down when they've gotten their channel both timed out, like blocked, like all that shit in the past, and we've advocated for them to still have a voice, because they don't call for violence. They have some shitty views, and they've turned on like our community a lot. Like, we just don't even fuck with them anymore. But they're still a good example, because as much bullshit as they gave this community, we stood up for them so many times. We're like, no, hey, do not shut them down. Like, yeah, look, we know they're gross, but they're in their rights of free speech. Let them talk.
Yeah.
I really don't believe in just shutting anyone down, even if they just have hateful views. It's just once they cross a certain line of calling for violence or something close to it, then we need to act. There's a fine line, but as soon as you cross that fine line,
it's crossed. It's
crossed, absolutely. So that's all my views on it.
I would not disagree with that, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Cool. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about?
Not really. I think I've said pretty much everything, unless there's somebody in the chat of which I cannot see, because I can if I go to the right. There we go. All right.
Yeah. At Meredith here, and are you on? I guess I don't know how to at you. I haven't seen you in the chat yet, so I guess
all right. The reason why is because there is a small lag on YouTube and it distracts me. So, did you want my Twitter account?
I have your Twitter down here, down below, and your channel. I just don't know how I can at you. I can watch for it, but I'm not sure what your account is on here, so that shows up as red for you.
Oh, okay.
because they have a at Gray Skeptic, so it's right for me.
Okay, so it's at Godless Strayan.
Oh, okay. At Godless Strayan. That'll
Yeah.
work. You have RTO liked, yes. Have to. No, it's good for. I don't know what that means, Robert X. I'm sorry. Someone else asked me a question, and I told them that I would ask. It was blue collar, I think, heathen. They asked what your shirt says.
Oh, it says, hang on, let's see if I can. It says, I do not spew profanities. I enunciate them clearly, like a lady.
Very nice. Very.
It's my favorite shirt.
I like that. Beach wants to know. She wants to know about your necklace, and is there anything special about it?
Oh, this. Okay, well, I used to do lapidary. So if you know what lapidary is, it's basically you're shaping the stones.
Huh.
And this is labradorite, and this was the mascot stone for my lapidary club. So I needed a new necklace, and I saw that for sale here for sale here in uni, and I just went, oh, that's pretty, and yeah, bought it. Yeah, so it's special for me. This stone, it's very pretty.
It is very pretty. It's cool, and it looks nice on you. So
Thank you.
welcome. Purple Rams is orange. Asked, excuse me, to explain to explain to you how to watch the Google chat and avoid the lag. No, because I don't know how to. That's why I'm not all up in the chat right now. Also,
I'll have a chat to you later, Purple. If you can send on that information to me, because I'd love to learn how to do that as well.
Okay. Robert X cleared up that I was having trouble with. You have to, like, yes, you have to if you know what's good for you.
Okay, I agree. Can you tell us the periodic table from End the Conspiracy? Do you really want to know? Are you sure you want to know?
I want to know. That's my favorite thing about chemistry is the periodic.
Well, would it surprise anyone here to find out that I actually carry around a miniature periodic table in my wallet?
Happy squeal.
Hang on. Nerd, I thought so. Well, I could tell you about it, but first I need to find a periodic table, and second of all, it'll take another hour and a half for me to explain it to you guys. So maybe later, maybe later. But I will say my favorite element of the periodic table is bismuth. And I don't know how to show you guys because I am a technophobe, a picture of bismuth. Hang on. It is absolutely stunning. How do I change this? Showing my... Yeah, I don't know how to change it to show my screen share. There we go.
Yeah.
These are bismuth. Can you see those?
I can't see your screen.
You can't? Let's see if I can try. Entire screen. Share that. So these are can you see them?
Yeah, I see. I'm gonna present you.
Yeah. So these are bismuth. Yeah, they're stunning.
Yes.
So this is my favorite element on the periodic table, and it's also a very effective way to kill H. pylori, which is also that microbe that I was talking about earlier. Yeah, so that's my favorite. Let's go. Yeah, that's my favorite. How do I unshare this? You can see me again?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, so and bismuth can also kill off H. pylori, which is my favorite microbe. So yeah, very cool.
Pretty darn cool. Pretty darn cool. I was gonna say my favorite element is Xenon. It's a cool name, and also I like the Disney Channel original movie because I had a crush on that girl, Kristen Storm, who played her. But that's a whole other thing. But you said it's Bismuth?
Yeah, Bismuth.
That could also be a new fun favorite because that's pretty cool.
They're very cool.
Yeah, neat. I don't think we have any more questions. Do you have any questions for me?
What's the time over there?
That's always a good question. It's 3:01 a.m.
You probably should go to bed.
I'm a night shifter until I actually might not be able to do many more excuse me, shows at this time.
Oh no.
Because they just changed my schedule from 3rd to 1st. So
how dare they?
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty big change. So I'm not sure what the future will hold. I might just keep doing this because I like to punish myself, I guess. But and I'm used to this time, but we'll see what happens. So everyone knows. I guess thanks for asking that because yeah. What time is it there right now?
10 to 3, 5 to 3. No, 3. Sorry.
3.
Sorry, but like 3. We'll just call it 3. It's only a couple of minutes to 3. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. All right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and close out for the night.
Fair enough.
Let me double check. I don't want to miss anything. Girl of the 21st century. Yes. I'm sorry. I don't know how to say your name. Triasdl. Triasdl. That's a cool name. And
it is a very cool name.
And Purple Ram Soren says, great. AFET. AFET. I'm just going to say fit. I put the dash there. AFET. This would be a perfect show time for me to be on your show. Fair enough. Purple, that'd be awesome. We'll set something up.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. So, everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful night. Meredith, thank you so much.
Or evening or morning.
Yes.
Yes.
Have a wonderful whatever time you're having.
Yes. Yes.
And get some sleep or don't. It's up to you. I'm not your boss.
Exactly.
Exactly. So hopefully we'll see you again sometime soon.
I hope so too.
Leah, if I can coerce you to come over there, be cool.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so we'll see you soon, hopefully. And everyone, have a good rest of the week.
You too. And don't forget, don't give yourself the raw prawn.
Thank you. I was going to ask you to do that, but I forgot.